So as another part of Season 6 has dropped, so has arguably one of the greatest brawls in the entire series that puts Season 2, 3, and 5 to shame. Today I, Mr. Learn, will be analyzing bar for bar what happened during the final brawl of Cobra Kai Season 6 Part 2, see who got done the most dirty, who was the MVP, and what does this mean for the next part of the season. So we start off with Robby and Axel facing off, and this man is not giving Robby any time to defend or attack for himself. This eventually leads into him pushing Robby a little too far back, so he bumps into the cobras. And so Kwon, who will be getting his own dedicated video very soon, decides to strike bro in the stomach, showing him that times have not changed. This may be modern times, but Cobra Kai is probably more brutal than ever than they were back then, and Kwon perfectly embodies that. As this happens, we'd see Chozen and Miguel trying to call him out on this, which leads into Axel getting involved because bro got friend zoned by Sam, and so now he pretty much has just been gunning for only Miguel when Sam didn't even lead him on or anything. It's so stupid and genuinely so funny, but Axel isn't a sorry fighter, so I'm gonna let this slide. Anyway, before the ref could try and call anything out, Team Drago, or the Russian team, ends up clumping bro in the back of the head due to him trying to kick them out earlier for having steroids, which would then initiate the entire brawl as a whole. So not only are we dealing with Kwon and Axel, but now every other dojo, including the ones who are off steroids. It gets so bad that we have the senseis dragging out the ones running the tournament, and some poor lady gets slammed into some lady gets slammed into the desk by some Roid Rager. Anywho, we see Terry move away, which Kreese would then decide to go after him, while Chozen, Johnny, and Daniel try to calm everyone down. Chozen ends up beating some kids himself as well, which is always great to see. Kwon, after taking a fat L, decides to take a page out of Geges' book and get to jumping Robby, while Sam would handle her own business and prove her worth. As the senseis try to get involved, we see Chozen helping out Kim take out the Roid Senseis, while Johnny and Daniel take on Wolf, who low-key kind of suns Johnny at the beginning, I can't lie. Johnny can't even finish his one-liner without him getting sucker punched in the schnoz, but don't worry, Johnny gets his ones. We'll get to that, but first let's talk about Kreese. Kreese, as everything is going down, sees Silver run away, and so he attempts to shank him in the darkness. Unfortunately for him, he drops his knife during the brawl, which leads into him just running it with his hands and trying to beat Terry himself. And he actually does succeed in doing so. It seems like the training in part 1 actually paid off, but of course, Terry loves to catch his enemies off guard, which he's easily able to do to Kreese. However, as it seems like all hope is lost for Kreese, we'd start to see the others lose as well. Kenny and Devon hold their own pretty well, I'd say, along with the Binary brothers, who team up with another team to take down the Roid Ragers. But as for the main four, it's not looking too good. Miguel and Robby are being overwhelmed by Axel and Kwon, and Tory would be struggling with Zara, which Robby would see and go and save her, showing that Zara was a complete mistake on his part and kind of ending that little drama. Oh yeah, for context, Robby got drunk and saw Kwon flirting with Tory and thought he and Tory were a thing, so then he brought Zara into his room, which then leads into Zara and Robby kissing in front of Tory, which pretty much triggered Tory's mental conflict throughout the arc. But luckily, the two both know that it was a mistake, and the two lock in along with Sam to take down the Iron Dragons. This leads into Kwon trying to take on Robby after he landed the nastiest double kick. That shit was super effective. He was like nidoran. And after Sam tries to intercept Kwon, Kwon would just kick Sam down to the ground, and of course this fragile fruit gets upset because he dared to try to hit the girl who does not like him, by the way. And so he'd proceed to throw Miguel out of the way and take on Kwon himself. The two biggest forces that Miyagi Do has to face are now facing each other, and we see Kwon clearly being a lot weaker physically than Axel, but he seems to be more agile. He'd get punched so hard bro would break the camera and give the world a different angle of the tournament, which is on the ground with him bleeding. And this is where Kwon would find Kreese's knife, but as this happens, Johnny would find Terry and Kreese, leading into Johnny saving Terry and not taking down Kreese, and instead showing that the Miyagi Way has finally fully settled within Johnny, which would allow him to get his get back against Terry Silver. Unlike the last time where he was inexperienced with Miyagi Do and got caught off guard, this time he has full mastery of the style, along with him this time catching Silver lacking. Johnny finally gets his ones with Silver and beats him just like how Danny did, and my god, I love my king for this. Anyway, Daniel would see what Kwon is up to, which is him taking the knife and trying to approach Axel with it, and Daniel would attempt to try and stop Kwon, but before he could do anything, we'd see Kwon tried the same kick he used on Axel at the start of the season. He'd land on the very weapon he tried to use to kill him with, ending his own life in the process. After Kwon cries out in pain, the entire arena goes silent before the cameras then cut, and with that, the Sekai Taikai is put on hold. Now, with the breakdown out of the way, let's discuss some big highlights. Johnny getting his get back on silver, the Binary Brothers, Kenny and Devon, and everything with Robby, Sam, and Tory was honestly all amazing. Miguel, in my opinion, is not the worst performing fighter in this entire fight, because obviously there's some cannon fodder. I honestly think the person who got done the most dirty was probably that one executive who got slammed on the table. I was crying, bro. However, aside from those instances, I think Miguel was honestly the most disappointing one out of anybody here. Not only did he start off the strongest at the beginning of the season and even calling Robby out on his conflict, but because of Miguel's arc, or, you know, what he goes through in the season ends pretty much by the time he gets back in the tournament, there's really only Axel to deal with, which he has nothing to do with. Once he found out his mom was okay and Robby got his head back in the game, all he really had to do was try and fight Axel, which he barely did, if I'm being honest. But in my opinion, the MVPs of this whole brawl has to be Axel and Robby. Axel, because there was really no other fighter that could put him down, and Robby for clutching a 2-on-1 with Kwon and the other best student in Cobra Kai. As for the adults, I mean, my favorite parts were definitely Johnny and Chozen's. Johnny had my favorite fight in this whole sequence, while Chozen took the funniest sections of the fight. But of course, as we know, despite all the good that happens in this fight, something very tragic happens in the end. With this brawl over, it seems as if the Sekai Taikai is going to be put on hold, which I don't know what to predict if that happens. However, if there is a chance for the tournament to still go on, I believe Robby may sit out so Miguel can participate, because he did get injured pretty bad. And this would allow Miguel to have a new obstacle to overcome, that being Axel. And as for Tory versus Sam, well, I hope Tory mainly wins, but either way, I'm not going to be mad. Anyway, that's my analysis on the Season 6 Part 2 Brawl. Next video will be more than likely on Kenny's comeback or an analysis on Kwon. Let me know what you'd like to see first, and be safe, everybody.